All right, this has been a highly requested video and something I'm super excited about. Y'all know we love tech and gadgets and equipment here on the channel. This is one sweet, very unusual smart generator. So welcome back, everybody. This is the SG4000 smart generator from EcoFlow. Now, I've had a lot of y'all request that we test this here on the channel. I finally got my hands on one. We're gonna go through it today from full setup to testing and more. So as you can see, it's able to be lifted up by one person, put on the table. Although, yes, it's got some weight to it. You're gonna want some help doing that. Still quite portable though. Full pull-out handle. You just seen where I can roll this thing around in the shop. We can roll it around outdoors. The wheels are big enough to go over uneven ground. I appreciate that. I don't think I'd be going over soft sand or anything with it, but I can foresee a lot of people wanting this for RV and camping setup as well as home generation. So it's ultimately built to be a companion to the new EcoFlow Delta Pro 3, or it can run on the predecessor to this, the Delta Pro, according to website literature. So long story short, this unit communicates with that smart generator and they work in conjunction with each other, whether you're there or not. As you can see right now, I have my Delta Pro 3 running my entire shop through this transfer switch right here. This unit can output 120 or 240 volts. We did a full review on it. And you can run through transfer switches, generator inlet boxes, EcoFlow's smart home panel 2, things such as that. But I just like a traditional transfer switch here. So we're pulling a ton of power out of this unit right now, 2,600 watts, and I've been doing that for quite a while. We're trying to pull this down below 30%. Let me explain why. So what do I mean by smart generator and these two work in conjunction with each other? This is a 4,000 watt output generator. By the way, it's dual fuel, so to make a little less power on propane. That's 4,000 peak. It also has an X boost function to where you can run even higher than that, but ultimately designed to run continuous around 3,200 watts on the gasoline tank. Again, a little less on the propane hookup. This particular unit communicates with that Delta Pro 3 right there, or the older Delta Pro, again, according to website literature. I haven't personally tested that model. These hardwire together and this produces DC current. That's the big difference between this and the model below it. Not only does it produce AC on the front, but has a direct connection DC cable to charge the battery more efficiently on the Delta Pro. And again, these communicate. So the smart thing about that is whether you are home or not, this right here can communicate with the Delta Pro or the Delta Pro 3. You set up the parameters in the app. That tells this when it's getting low, this automatically starts up. It has a battery, it has electric start, it has manual start, all your traditional generator functions, plus all the smart features. It knows to fire up, it tracks the battery percentage that you set in the app. You can charge all the way up to 100% or less, and then it shuts itself down automatically. So think about that. Say you're asleep at night and don't want to get up to take care of your battery that got a little bit too weak in the middle of the night and you're running your house on it. This will crank up and do it automatically. Maybe you got a vacation home. Maybe you had to evacuate for a hurricane, something a lot of us have had to deal with over the last year down here in Florida. We've been hit by multiple hurricanes and lost power multiple times. Well, whether you're home or not, this can fire up, can do the charging, can shut itself back down. It charges its own internal battery. It's all automatic, truly smart. All right, if we take a peek around on the outside, let's just start opening covers. So there is your quick disconnect propane port. It comes with a very nice and lengthy propane cable. So you can hook it up to 20-pound or 30-pound cylinders on your RV, or you can hook it up to a really large tank like we have for our house, pretty much being able to run this for weeks at a time with our 500-gallon tank. You have a big selector switch over here. You have your propane gas on. This is how you kill fuel, cut it off, and then you go to the right for regular gasoline that goes in this tank right up here on top, just like a traditional generator. Pull cord if you want to manually start this. Manual push button, which we still have to connect the battery. You can electric start it by doing this. You can electric start it from the app. There's multiple ways to start these smart units right here. All right, so here's what a lot of people are gonna be interested in. You have a much larger 30 amp, 120 volt output. This is your TT30P, your typical 30 amp travel trailer plug. Now, if you don't have this particular style, you can buy adapters to go from this 3-prong style to say a twist lock style. Over on this side, you have a single 20 amp, 120 volt output. So if you want to use this as a traditional generator and need to plug an extension cord here or a 3-way adapter to get some more outlets, you can do that. Ultimately, what this is designed for is to plug in and do that DC charging over to the Delta Pro. So if we look over on this side, that's where we make this connection. This is the DC port right here where we can hook up the provided cable. By the way, it comes with a nice lengthy 15-foot cable from this to the battery input port on your Delta units. Now you need to be aware it does include this adapter, but you're going to need this to do any sort of charging on your Delta Pro style units. This plugs into the Delta Pro units. Then you get that DC 2-prong charging port right here to connect the provided cable to. And then if we look up top right here, here is our battery port connection. So there's actually some quick disconnect cables right here that we can pull right out. We're gonna need to hook our battery itself up. You can see it's not connected from factory as is, and we still need to put oil in this so we don't connect the battery just yet and accidentally start this up. So make this connection after you've got the unit topped off with oil, ready to go. Speaking of that, let's go ahead and dive into the side panel here. Just take you a flathead screwdriver or a quarter or anything just to undo these little screws right here, and we can pop this cover right off. Pull this side panel open. Now we have access to our engine here. So here's our air filter that will occasionally need to pop out and clean out. Here is where you add your engine oil. According to the manual, we're gonna need 0.58 quarts, just under 6/10 of a quart. They recommend a 10W40. That's gonna be a little bit harder to find. I've got 540, 1040 and a whole selection here. So you may wanna order that ahead of time. Obviously, oil can vary based on your climate as well. That's for you to research. But a thicker oil is typically recommended, especially down here in the heat of the South like this. All right, we've got the oil in. I've checked the level. We're on the hash marks where we need to be. We're gonna connect the battery up right here by putting these two connectors together, close this compartment, and we're ready to do our first initial fire up of this. And I wanna let it out on the eco mode for a little bit just to kind of get an initial break in. Then we're gonna hook it up to that Delta Pro 3 and actually test out the functionality of this. All right, I just went and got some fresh non-ethanol gas. I highly recommend you run non-ethanol on your small equipment, but this is rated for other types of fuel. It's just my fuel of choice. And I noticed in the manual too, should you going to be putting this up for long-term storage, there appears to be basically a fuel drain, which I'm very happy to see. So we'll flip this to the right. Now we could actually crank it up by hand, or since we have the battery connected, let's see. It's showing it come 3/4 charged. Don't forget this will charge the battery itself. Now, if this is like the other generator, we can turn on eco mode, which I recommend. So eco mode ramps the unit down. So if you have a light load on it, it does not put a heavy load on the engine, doesn't rev it all the way up, doesn't burn as much fuel. And I like to start up in eco mode, as long as we don't have a heavy demand on this immediately. There's a Wi-Fi function right here, so you can actually monitor this via Wi-Fi through your app. You can turn that on and set that up. I highly recommend it, especially if you're gonna run this at, say, a second home or a home you evacuated, so you can still communicate with it. Here's your power button. So you can actually press and hold this, and the unit will automatically start up. All right. Look at there. Aha, and the gasoline did go to 100% once it shook up right there. There's probably a little float in there. So perfect. At the moment, everything's reading correctly. By the way, this does have a carbon monoxide detection system and will shut itself down. That's very important. I should also mention, never ever run one of these inside, but you can see I'm in a shop with two huge bay doors up, heavily ventilated, and we can kick a fan on too, but never run one of these near an open window of a home, open window of a camper, for example, or inside. While that's warming up, let me show you what all come in the package. Looks like we have a 15-foot cable here. This is our big charging cable. I love seeing the length here because you're gonna wanna run this outside of wherever your main unit is. So we need to talk about that real quick. I'm running just as heavy a load in here right now, actually a heavier load than we do at the house. We have the EcoFlow Delta Ultra running the house, but a lot of you are gonna get this unit for running the house. Speaking of, take a quick look at the review video I did on this where we was running literally our central AC, a 240 volt well pump, everything in the house except a dryer we could run with this. Now your results may vary, but what I was letting you know, if this is what you're gonna run your home and say it's inside a house or a pantry like ours, you would need to put an access installed right here where you could run the cord outside to the generator, the same cord I just showed you. Otherwise, if you're like us and this is out in a garage or a shop or something like that, you're good to go. What I'll do is leave this unit in here, plugged into my transfer switch. I can run that cord to my generator. And if we're doing an emergency or a hurricane outage, I'll crack a door and run this out here. I'm not living in the shop. I'm not scared about that carbon monoxide we just talked about, and we can vent the shop itself out. By the way, I got my mic on me. This is unbelievably quiet. Some of you are gonna wanna know this, especially if you're camping or if you live in like a HOA community, you're running the batteries at night for silence. I have a ton of y'all reach out to me for that specific thing. Living in Florida, a lot of homes on top of homes and communities, well, they have rules after 10 o'clock or whatever at night. No generators, no noise, even after a hurricane. I know, it's crazy. We're in eco mode. All right, I'm around back. There's the exhaust around the side. I honestly think this is quieter than the SG4000, the smaller unit that we just tested. And that was a quiet unit. I'm gonna take it out of eco mode. You're gonna hear it rev up. Wow, still quiet. A little louder on the back side. Come around front. I mean, I'm only 6 feet away from it, and listen to that. That is super, super quiet. We're gonna use the DC out of the side. Nice long cable comes with this. Remember the adapter that I showed you? You're gonna need that to go in the back side of the Delta Pro 3 or the Delta Pro, and then it allows you to plug in this DC charging cable. The whole point of having one of these is pure silence, and you want that to kick on as little as possible. And again, this setup is for the people that don't carry around solar panels like our campers, or maybe someone that doesn't want a big solar array out in their yard. I totally get it. We heavily rely on generators here, although since we just put that solar array in, we're probably no longer gonna have to depend on them. But it was extremely cloudy this morning. If this had been a day after the hurricane, we would probably be firing up a generator to top our batteries off. So let's take a quick look in the app here. We're already connected to my Delta Pro 3. I've updated to the most current firmware, updated my app. You're gonna wanna do all that because EcoFlow is constantly adding new features. So if we come up here to the settings, we can click on that, and we're gonna scroll down until we find the smart generator. There it is, smart generator auto start and stop. We're gonna set this to 30%, or you can go even lower. 30% is high as we can go. You can charge up to 100%, or you can charge up to whatever setting that you want. Speaking of the EcoFlow apps, they're doing something new right now, tracking, to where you can take a look at what's called the watt a year flashback. So it recognizes all the equipment, especially whenever you have it connected to Wi-Fi. I haven't as often as I should have, but I really like this tracking feature. It gives you a quick snapshot of your heavy usage months. You can see at times there's 32,000 watts that we use, 4,000, 3,000. These are lots of different power outages. During this month, we had a hurricane and was without power for days. We did have to do some charging via generator, or this number would be a lot higher. While connected to Wi-Fi, it showed that I used 43,000 watts of power. We actually used a lot more than that, and I'll show you. So I didn't even know about this feature. I think I'm gonna leave mine connected to the internet more often now so we can do this tracking. So it checks the total time you've been connected, all the other features. Plus, inside your other apps directly connected to your units, you can look at daily, weekly, or yearly tracking as well. This is off my Ultra from the house. Look, we've used over 51,000 watts just on that this year. You can see at the different times. This is thanks to, well, this was a tornado outbreak event, if I remember correctly. Hurricane outages and things such as that. If we would go back another month to in the previous year, we had another major several day outage thanks to Hurricane Idalia. We've been getting slammed back to back to back. All right, so I'm gonna swap 1,000 watts of shop lights over. They're running. See, now we've got over 1,000 watts going on this unit. We're down at 31%. And I'm curious to see when this hits 30, if that unit kicks on. And while we're waiting to hit 30%, I went into the app for my smart generator. You can set up the output. We're currently at max output, 3,200 watts. If you want your generator just to sip fuel or pull less, you can set all those features up. There's the X boost functions. You can slide to turn the generator on automatically. You can turn it off from the app. Again, you can start it out in the field. There's multiple ways to start and stop this. You can communicate via internet, you can communicate via Bluetooth like I'm doing right now, or the units can communicate themselves. All right, we just hit 30%. Check that out. Fired right up. I'm starting to see output on the screen here. That is so cool, y'all. All right, I'm stepping back inside so you can hear me. I got a lot of solar fans and inverters running, plus the generator. So, we're putting over 3,000, almost 3,100 watts to the Delta Pro 3. Don't forget we can adjust all that. I can see the percentage down there, 31% and climbing. I just cut the lights and everything off going from the unit. Now it's showing that it's going to be charged in 57 minutes. So realistically, you could charge that unit, that Delta Pro, multiple times on a tank of gas. So that's good information to know. We'd have to do some really good long-term testing. By the way, this is a 120 volt unit, does not have 240 volts. So you need to know that. But that's the cool thing about hooking it to the Delta Pro 3. That does have 240 volts. So you can output 240 volts to a main panel while charging from that generator. That's pretty cool. All right, today's video is more about an introduction to this, not long-term testing. We're gonna have some of those videos coming, but I've got a special treat for y'all. A lot of people are gonna be interested in the Delta Pro 3 for camping and travel trailers, as well as this generator setup. There are millions of campers on the road, and you see generators hanging off the back of all of them. Well, they're noisy, and you gotta run them all night long unless you have shore power somewhere. So what if you could run in silence at nighttime and then have a smart generator to fire up anytime during the night to top the battery off? Or if you can make it through the night, then you just fire the generator up in the morning. This could be a true off-grid setup for people that are doing boondock camping. All right, check this out. I have always wanted to run this test. And I've had a lot of y'all ask for this test as well. But as popular as campers are, it makes sense. All right, that fits beautiful, and there's room for, man, we could do 2 extra batteries on this thing if we wanted to. So on the side of this unit is that same travel trailer port. That's the one that we want, 30 amps of 120. Now here's the thing, if I were gonna set up and run this way full time like a lot of y'all are, I would install one of them little boat hatches right here that you unscrew, and you could run the cable up from underneath and then clamp it back off when not in use. All right, so here's my plan here. First of all, I've been curious if the Delta Pro 3 would run a camper just fine. It makes plenty of power, no reason it shouldn't. We either have a 13.5 or 15,000 BTU air conditioner up there. I don't remember the exact specs. I'd have to try to dig out and find a manual. But with that said, that's like the most common sizes that you see on your standard size camper. We already know that this communicates with the smart generator. So all I would have to do is run the cable out the backside to that, set this up anywhere away from the camper or even underneath. Again, just be careful of carbon monoxide flows and exhaust flows. And then you could run all night long on one of these units. And if I were to put my extra battery with it, I mean, you could run a really long time, but we need to see how much power the AC actually pulls. Then this could fire up, charge it, and you're good to go. Now, if you're looking for a true off-grid setup, like I think a lot of people are with campers, bring you some fold-out solar panels or put some on the roof. Put the solar input to this. Now you have 2 sources. So if you're really boondocking it, don't have shore power, not at a campground, truly off-grid, this could be one sweet setup right here. Now the other thing I want to test is the 30 amp output on this, because we haven't tested anything 120 wise. So we'll run the camper off of this as well. And once again, we already know if we hook this cable up, they'll communicate and do just like you've seen right here. All right, lights are on, we've got power. Go ahead and turn the AC on. Yeah, that's broken. We got a new one on the way. Let's see if we get the AC to actually work today, because it's kind of cool outside, but not that cool. I want to see how much power these camper ACs actually use. I've never tested that before. That'll be really good information to know for run times and all that good stuff. AC is on. All right, compressor just kicked in, over 1,000 watts right there, settling back out in the 900s. And the inverter's also running on this camper as well, charging the battery, running the lights inside, things such as that. Okay, we're settling out around, you know, it's bouncing between 850 to 950 watts. That's really good information to know right there. So shocking, camper AC doesn't use as much power as I thought. Good information to know. That's got a 4,000 watt hour battery in it. So running some lights, run the AC, a few other things, you could run realistically for 4 hours. You got to understand, campers are not the world's best insulated. This one's insulated quite well. The AC is not going to run straight for 4 hours. It's going to cycle on, it's going to cycle off, and then it's going to cycle on and off. So you're going to get much more runtime than that. But should you need a lot more runtime getting through the night, realistically, adding that extra battery that I have, sounds like we could run all the way through the night. Again, the AC is not just going to stay fully engaged. And if at any point in time we pull the batteries down below 30%, this kicks on. All right, that's some information I've been wanting to get y'all. So 800 something watts is what a camper AC with the compressor engaged pulls. Tell you what, I'm kind of running through my head that I'd like to go maybe do a multi-day camping trip bring some fold out solar panels, bring this, and do a true 2 to 3 day test and see how much fuel we use. Could you truly stay off grid with a setup like this? Because I think you could if you brought enough solar panels for sure, and then just use this as some backup. Okay, now we're hooked up to the regular 30 amp port on this. Because we're in auto mode, I can just do electric start. Let's fire that up. I love that. All right, by the way, I'm not in eco mode, so let's see how loud that is. So quiet. If I was in eco mode, it'd be super quiet. So we are inside. I can definitely hear it, but I don't think that would be bad at a campsite at all. That generator should really ramp up with this. I guess I better make sure nothing's in there. Actually didn't really have to ramp up at all. 1600 watts. So yeah, a microwave pulls a lot more than your camper AC. So things like space heaters, if you run that in here, no need. If you're boondocking, run the propane, run the furnace. They typically run you out of these campers so quick anyways. Okay, so the good thing about propane, long-term storage, it honestly never goes bad. The other good thing is if you're using this for campers, you've always got a couple cylinders on the front. So a lot of times people bring spares, and you can adjust your cylinder sizes to hook up for long-term running, whereas a gas tank's just gonna hold what it holds. The other nice thing is it doesn't really gum up your carburetor. There's really nothing to make the inside go bad right here. But let's keep in mind there is a drawback. You make about 300 less watts according to the paperwork on propane versus gasoline, and typically you're not as efficient. You use a little more fuel. Let's get our hose connected. Put our quick disconnect on. Really doesn't get no more simple than that. All right, then the dial on the side, we're gonna go over to propane, open up our tank. And let's see, I don't expect to start up immediately. May have to purge out the carb, or I really don't know how all that works, to be honest. All right, now it says we're on liquid propane. It's giving us a percentage here. That bottle is used, so I guess it's reading possibly off of pressure. That's pretty cool. Let's turn this on and see how hard it is to fire up. There's one try. Two, almost had it. All right, took 5 tries. That's not uncommon. I have another dual fuel generator in here, and typically when you do a swap over, it takes several times to, I guess, probably purge the fuel and get over to the new fuel source. All right, let's do this microwave again. All right, it's handling it. 1500 watts. All right, so I'm playing around with that. We can turn on eco mode. All right, here how quiet it just got. Again, you could be doing this from the bedroom in your camper, and I know it's hard to see on the camera out here outside, but there's a slide dial right here. We can just shut it down. That is awesome. We can turn it back on with this, all from the comfort of your bed or halfway around the world if you have this hooked up to internet. Man, this is really cool. I love this one. Plus, plenty of power to boot. All right, that was a great initial test. And again, we have this here because several of y'all have been asking me for months to get my hands on one. So this is just the initial review right here with a lot more testing coming. We'll test it truly off grid with a camper setup here. By the way, if y'all want to see more of that, some data, some actual runtime, using this stuff for days, maybe getting some of the fold out solar panels and hooking all that up to see actual usage, let me know. We'll probably include that on the review channel. Links down in the description, since that'll be more for extended reviews of this type of equipment. Now, the reason I showed this today is because the big request was this on this channel, and because we use units like this to power our house. That's what this channel is all about, just living out in the country, dealing with the hurricanes, the outages, and all the other stuff that we have. As always, links are down in the description, and if I can get you a discount code, I'm gonna put that down there as well. Full disclosure, I reached out to EcoFlow for this unit based on y'all's request for it, so they did provide me that. I appreciate them doing it. They've been an awesome sponsor of the channel. All right, thank y'all for watching. All the information is down in the video description. We'll catch you on the next one.